Reduction Initiative led by the U.S. Marshals Carolinas Regional Fugitives Task Force. 19 law enforcement agencies participated in this operation. Our federal law enforcement agencies represented today are Chris Edge, Acting U.S. Marshal for the Western District of North Carolina, Patrick Campbell, Acting Assistant Chief Deputy U.S. Marshal for the District of South Carolina, Jamal Thompson, Chief Inspector of the U.S. Marshals Carolinas Regional Fugitive Task Force, Benny Mims, Special Agent in charge of the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives in North Carolina and South Carolina, Jason Kemp, Supervising U.S. Probation Officer in the Western District of North Carolina, Corey Ellis, United States Attorney for the District of South Carolina, and I also want to recognize the Drug Enforcement Administration, whose Assistant Special Agent in charge, Eric Conway, could not be here today. Our state law enforcement partners are represented by Sergeant Cliff White with the North Carolina State Highway Patrol, Captain Bradley DeWitt, Area Coordinated Enforcement Commander with the South Carolina Highway Patrol, Eddie Buffalo, Secretary of North Carolina Department of Public Safety, and I'd like to recognize Jeremy Alderman, Assistant Special Agent in charge with the North Carolina Bureau of Investigation, Southern Piedmont District, in his absence today. Our local law enforcement partners in North Carolina include our host for today's press conference, Chief Joseph Ramey with Gaston County Police Department, Captain Aaron Worston with the City of Gastonia Police Department, Sheriff Alan Cloninger with the Gaston County Sheriff's Office, and in his absence, Travis Page, our Gaston County District Attorney. And representing our local law enforcement partners in the South Carolina, we have Sheriff Kevin Tolson with the York County Sheriff's Office, and Chief Chris Watts of the Rock Hill Police Department. I also want to recognize the York County Solicitor's Office and Solicitor Kevin Brackett, who could not be with us on today. So as you can see, Operation Washout is a collaboration between local, state, and federal law enforcement, as well as federal and state prosecutors, as part of a violent crime reduction initiative spanning across 2 states. When we talk about violent crime, we start that discussion with 2 questions. Where are the places and who are the people? Our local law enforcement partners, they know the hot spots in the communities where violent crime is a problem. They have the information and they have the intelligence. They also know how important it is for us to focus on the repeat offenders and the violent offenders who are the drivers of criminal activity, who pose the greatest threat to our community and who continue to wreak havoc in our communities. They know who these individuals are, and they know the level of violence that these individuals bring into our neighborhoods. So this Operation Washout, combines that boots on the ground intelligence with the additional resources of our state and federal law enforcement agencies. By partnering together, we can then focus our combined efforts and resources to be more effective in disrupting criminal activity, and by removing violent and repeat offenders, going after gang activity, removing illegal firearms and drugs from our streets, which then truly makes a difference in our communities. This operation is about partnerships, as we combine the information that we gather and utilize it to develop larger scale criminal investigations. But most importantly, this operation is about reducing violent crime. It is about federal, state, and local law enforcement joining together and pooling our expertise on guns, gangs, drugs, and fugitives to be force multipliers so we can make the biggest possible impact reducing crime in our communities. Protecting our citizens from violent crime is my office's top priority, as is that the top priority for the Department of Justice. But there's no doubt that that's also the top priority for all of the law enforcement agencies represented today. But we can't do this alone. We need the help of the community. Earlier this week, my office launched, in partnership with ATF, the Think Again campaign, which is an informational campaign aimed at educating people in our communities on how to prevent illegal firearms from getting into the hands of those that should not have firearms, and encouraging the public to report criminal activity. With this initiative, we invite everyone in the community to be a part of the solution to end criminal activity and to stop illegal firearms from getting into the wrong hands. Our message is simple. We ask you to think again before making a decision that could lead to an illegal firearm ending up in our streets. Think again before agreeing to be a straw purchaser for a person who is not permitted to possess a firearm. And think again before you ignore criminal activity. The goal is to encourage people to get involved and to report illegal firearms to ATF or to your local state or local law enforcement. Remember, your confidential information can save a life. Let's work together and let's be the cure to end the gun violence epidemic. I will now pass it over to Chief Joseph Ramey of the Gaston County Police Department for his remarks. And later you will hear from Chris Edge, Acting United States Marshal for the Western District of North Carolina, who will talk more specifics about the operation.
Thank you, Ms. King. Good afternoon. On behalf of the citizens of Gaston County and the men and women of the Gaston County Police Department, I want to thank our partners at the local, state, and federal level. In particular, the Gaston County Sheriff's Office, Gastonia Police Department, the U.S. Marshal's Office, North and South Carolina, the U.S. Attorney's Office represented Western District and South Carolina, and of course our District Attorney Travis Page, as well as the other local partners and state partners that are represented here today. Today we'll talk about how these partnerships and working together we have and will continue to impact crime in our community. To our citizens, this is a reminder that we, law enforcement, are working together and partnering together to tamp down crime in our neighborhoods. To the criminals, you can run, but you cannot hide. As you can see, law enforcement in both states, North and South Carolina, are committed to finding you and holding you accountable for your actions. This is what it's about, partnerships. In closing, to our citizens, as you previously heard, you're an important partner in the fight against crime. We cannot do this without you. If you see something, say something. If you hear something, call us. If you know something, you have to share it. Working together is how we keep our community safe. And as you previously heard, you're part of the solution. It's important that you partner with us and join with us in keeping crime out of our communities. Thank you. And now I'd like to introduce Chris Edge, Acting U.S. Marshal in the Western District.
Good afternoon. First, I'd like to thank actually each and every individual law enforcement officer and support staff that made this a success. They have certainly made a positive difference in our community, as we've already discussed. Second, I'd like to thank the multiple agencies that's been mentioned that have collaborated to make this operation successful. DEA, U.S. Probation Office, ATF, Gaston County Police Department, Gastonia Police Department, Gaston County Sheriff's Office, North Carolina Department of Public Safety, York County Sheriff's Office, Rock Hill Police Department, U.S. Attorney's Office for both Western North Carolina and South Carolina, North Carolina State Highway Patrol, South Carolina Highway Patrol, and North Carolina State Bureau of Investigation. Operation Washout was a violent crime reduction initiative that took place over an 11-day period. Teams were focused on fugitives wanted for homicide, aggravated assaults with weapons, aggravated robberies and carjackings, sexual assaults, human trafficking, and drug sales and trafficking. There was a total of 91 arrests and 173 total warrants served, 5 of which were for homicide, 13 firearms offenses, 23 assaults, 59 narcotic offenses, and 16 of the individuals arrested were self-described as gang members. A total of 8 firearms were seized, some of which were stolen. And of the notable cases, 3 include one fugitive wanted by Kannapolis PD for a double homicide that was apprehended in Lexington, North Carolina, a fugitive wanted for homicide from Warner Robins, Georgia, arrested in Hickory, North Carolina, and a fugitive wanted in the South Carolina Highway Patrol for drug and weapon charges, arrested in Lowell, North Carolina. I would like to bring special attention to the fact that there were no uses of force, incidents, or injuries of any fugitives, law enforcement personnel, or citizens during this operation, partly because of the amount of training that is hosted at the Carolinas Regional Fugitives Task Force that emphasizes not only safety, security, but also medical. In closing, each one of us has the potential to make a difference in our communities. The women and men of our partner agency realized that potential and made the difference during this operation. Thank you.
At this time, we'll open it up for questions. If there are none, thank you so much. Oh.
Can you give us information on, how you track these individuals down? Was there a certain types of people you were targeting? I mean, there's so many agencies involved. How did you know who to focus in on and where?
So I'll let Agent Edge talk about the track down aspect of it. In terms of how these individuals were selected, these individuals were in fact some of the most violent individuals. And so U.S. Marshals Fugitive Task Force coned a list of individuals that had outstanding warrants and that had not been arrested, which is what then made them fugitives. But they then prioritized that list by working with local law enforcement in many of the agencies that are represented today to determine which of these individuals on this list are repeat offenders and are the causes of violent crime in our specific communities. That's then when they develop a plan of which individuals would be a part of this operation.
So as the U.S. Attorney said, these are the worst of the worst. These are people that are repeat offenders that have the most egregious crimes, the longest rap sheets. The Regional Fugitive Task Force solicits these cases from our partners that were just read off. Once those are obtained, our folks go through those and then see which ones are proper targets and then go forward and make those apprehensions.
Chief, can I ask you a question from a local perspective? When you have these federal partnerships, what does that allow your department to do or focus on when you're getting a little bit of relief or some help focusing on those violent criminals in your own community?
Well, it's a force multiplier, first of all, so it allows us to bring in resources that we wouldn't normally have and expand our efforts to target these individuals specifically while the rest of the department and agency can continue to do the day-to-day crime fighting. So, again, I think teamwork is what it's all about. They have resources that they bring to the table that we may not have, and this allows us to get those folks off the street.
Any other questions?
Can you just talk about just the working together with all the different agencies? And I know you guys can't get into exact, but can you maybe talk a little bit, was this like undercover work? Were you guys working with informants to bust these murders? How are you getting a hold of these people that you arrested?
I think that's also a Edge question.
Sure. So really the techniques are very similar to any of the fugitives that we apprehend throughout the year. And as complex as some of the cases could be, some of the techniques can be equally as complex. So it is some of the things that you had mentioned, some of those techniques, but a lot of it comes down to just police work and understanding that our state and local partners have the day-to-day interaction with some of these fugitives and have the real-time intelligence. Sure puts a lot of bonus to that work.
And so to further that, I can't overemphasize the magnitude of the cooperation and the partnership amongst the agencies. As a part of the Fugitive Task Force that's been highlighted today, there are a number of members that are also employed with local sheriff's offices and police departments that are a part of the task force. So again, these are individuals that are with the task force, but they know these communities because they also work in the communities. And so being able to bring all of those individuals in terms of the law enforcement together to discuss those drivers of violence, we're able to then magnify what we're able to do for this operation.
And this was the first operation for this task force in the Carolinas region in partnership. Do you expect to see other operations going forward and maybe other communities, not just you guys in County?
So I think the reality is we have noticed, as I'm sure all of you have noticed, that violent crime is up. And we want to do something about it in our communities. This was a very successful operation, and so we will be exploring whether or not operations such as this will be beneficial in other communities throughout our district.
And specifically in our district, do you have a sense of why that violent crime is up as it applies to Carolina and our community?
Not specifically as to why it's up in our area. I think it's up nationally. I think we're seeing those trends. We're just trying to figure out what we can do and how we can combine our efforts together to reduce it in our communities.
And I'll ask you this question because you're on the judicial side of it, but when we talk about seeing some of these individuals taken off the streets, the time and the effort that goes into it from the local department, from this task force, we saw some of these individuals that have extensive criminal histories be arrested after days of searching for them, and they were bonded out within 4 hours. They were back on the streets. What message does that send to the community, and where do you think that change needs to happen? And who do you hold accountable for that?
So I think what's important to note is that there was at least some level of reprieve at the moment that these individuals were actually apprehended. I think while a number of these cases will be prosecuted at the state, many of the individuals were immediately arrested on state charges. My office in particular will be working very closely with the DA's office as well as the other law enforcement agencies that are represented here to determine which of those cases we need to adopt federally so that we can bring in our federal resources for federal prosecution.
You talked about the importance of the federal and local and state agencies working together. Sometimes, federal and state don't always play nice. So talk about that partnership and just how great everything is.
So I think they always play nice, but I will say what makes it important is with the rise in violent crime, it's a problem that is too large for any one agency to tackle. I think it's a problem that's too large for any one jurisdiction to tackle. And so all of us must do our part, and if in doing our part we can combine resources together. I'll give you an example. It would not quite make sense for all of these individual agencies behind me to go after one specific target. Why not all sit down together, strategize, and see how we can go after that specific target collectively to make the better impact? Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. It's great to have you. Appreciate you taking time to come in. No problem. You're doing a great job. I know they're keeping you busy. Anything we can do for you down here, just let us know. Take care. Thank you. I guess you want us to leave the building?